Yo, what up, Night Nation? Wanted to do a video after Saturday's win. I felt like it deserved more discussion than just my typical kind of recap and five key takeaways post. This was honestly one of the best and most important regular season conference victories in school history. I have no doubt in my mind for a number of reasons. One, I think it gives us the confidence and momentum for the rest of this season. It will pay dividends later on. It'll be something we look back on as something that propelled us to new heights this season. And also because it is our first ever legacy Big 12 road win. Yes, we beat Cincy on the road last year, but our first legacy Big 12 road win. So it was important for a lot of different reasons. And, let's kind of talk about it. It was really the tale of two halves and what I think it means for UCF going forward, how it's going to help us, the positives, and also some of the negatives from this game where I still see some warts. First of all, we saw what happened in the first half. TCU's offense was nearly unstoppable. I think they converted on every single third down in the first half alone. And it's got to be stated, their quarterback, Josh Hoover, he's a really good quarterback. I'm not sure why he wasn't talked about. I know the Big 12 has a lot of big name quarterbacks, obviously Shedeur Sanders and Fifta on Arizona and Jalen Daniels on Kansas and whatnot. But Josh Hoover is legit. That is a legit quarterback right there. He threw for 402 yards and 4 touchdowns. And they also had some extremely good receivers. Beck, I think is how it's pronounced, had 9 receptions for 200 yards. And then that Williams kid, I think was his name. Yeah, Williams had 2 touchdowns, including that crazy grab that he had in the first half. And the first half just didn't go well for UCF. Obviously, that the score at halftime was 21-7. The offense was moving the ball, but they were only able to get one score because of obviously the blocked field goal. And then also, there was a blocked field goal, and I want to say there was one other miss in the first half. So they definitely could have had more points there, but only got 7. And gave up 21 there, and TCU's offense scored on every single drive in the first half. The defense got burnt in the first half. It was like a butter knife going through our defense. But give UCF credit. The second half is the turnaround. This is where I saw growth. First of all, we kind of had a reverse Baylor, right? We were able to outscore TCU 28-13 in the second half and 15-3 in the fourth quarter. So first of all, we vanquished several demons. We vanquished our second half falling apart demon, when instead we were actually way significantly better in the second half. We were able to get a legacy road win, and we were able to close out a tight game that got within one possession there early in the fourth quarter. The second half, what I saw was the defense was a lot better on third down. TCU ended up finishing 10 of 15 on third downs, which is still abysmal for our defense, but all five of those failed third down conversions came in the second half. So that was really, really good to see. I thought the secondary played better. We got a little bit more pressure on the quarterback in the second half. And then Deshaun Pace played out of his mind. He had 2 key tackles on one of TCU's final drives. The one that set up our game-winning touchdown, the drive that TCU had before that. Deshaun Pace had huge stops that basically stopped them from converting on second and third down. So he was absolute monster. And I thought the secondary played better in the second half. The linebackers played obviously pretty well, including Pace. But then our offense really caught fire. It started with that drive with about 4 minutes left in the third, where I think it was literally 3 plays. And then, KJ hit Kobe Hudson for his first touchdown, which was absolutely huge momentum booster. And that kind of got us back in the game. At that point, you're looking at, what was it at that point? Let me just check. So we were obviously down 28-7 going into it. And then, RJ Harvey had that first touchdown that got us at 13-28, which we still kind of fell out of the game because then they go in and hit a field goal. and TCU went up 31-13. So you're feeling bad, but it was with 4:01 left in the third quarter where KJ Jefferson hit Kobe Hudson for a 27-yard touchdown, and all of a sudden it's an 11-point game. You're feeling like this is a game, and that was literally like a 3-play drive. It was 3 plays, 75 yards, took off 1 minute off the clock. So that was, I thought, amazing execution by the offense. It really showed our offense, and I don't think we're surprised here, is going to be the best, group on the field, the best unit on the team. And it shows how quickly they can score. I mean, in every game, we've scored at least 35. Right now we're second in the country in rushing yards per game. We are top 10 in total yards per game, and I think top 15 in total points per game. Our offense I think, is back. This is the offense has been really solid every year under Gus, but I think this is the best offense we've had under him, and a lot more reminiscent to the Frost and Hype layer. Not that level, but a lot closer. Then we get that stop, after that Hudson touchdown in the fourth, and we pretty much score pretty damn fast again. We score in under 4 minutes on that RJ Harvey 27-yard touchdown run that got it to 31-26. And then I thought that was a great shovel pass for the 2-point conversion. Now all of a sudden it's a 1-possession game. It's a 3-point game. At that point, you're starting to feel a little confident. Then, TCU gets the ball back, and, they take about 4 minutes off the clock. And but UCF had those, like I mentioned, this huge stops that basically got them to have to kick a field goal, and that brings it to 34-28. And then TCU has one more drive where Deshaun Pace made those 2 plays that I mentioned that were just absolutely lights out. I mean, he was the heart and soul of the defense. And then Kobe Hudson goes and gets finishes a 72-yard, 10-play drive that only took off about 2:38 off the clock, with, a 20-yard touchdown catch where he got absolutely smashed but held onto the ball for his second touchdown of the game. And, Colton Boomer, obviously there's talk about vanquishing demons, was able to, finally get one through that was ultimately ended up being the game-winning point and the difference in us winning by 1 point in the game. And then the defense, obviously they gave up a few first downs with TCU had about 36 seconds left, but, kept them out of range to the point where, it was a 58-yard field goal try, and he missed wide right. So for me, what this does, this win, obviously, first of all, one of the best comebacks in UCF history. It's up there, possibly the best of all time. It's reminiscent of, I would say, 2 comebacks. One being the Boise State game in Gus's first year at home when we were down 21 and came back. But that comeback happened a little bit earlier, and it was against Boise State, which is still great, and they're a great program, but not as exciting as this. But that's probably in the top 5 comebacks, at least as far as recent ones. And then this is very, very reminiscent of the Louisville comeback. We were also down 21, didn't have a lead the entire game, literally took our first lead on that last touchdown that Jeff Godfrey caught. And this is the same thing here. We didn't lead until 36 seconds left in the game. So I would call, as far as regular season, the Louisville and this TCU the 2 best comebacks in UCF history. So the fact that we were able to overcome the adversity of being down 28-7, being down 31-13, having a lot of miscues. Obviously, we had 2 extra points blocked, a field goal blocked, left I think it was at least 6 points on the board between the field goals and the extra points, 5 or 6 points, whatever it is, we left right on the field, which could have actually had a lead earlier if it weren't for those. So overcoming the lack of third down, getting off the field on third down, I thought that was great. The fact that the defense tightened up in the second half, because going into that second half, we're like, this is the same defense as last year. I put it out on Twitter and I was being negative, but had the same warts. Trouble tackling, trouble with getting off the field on third down. The linebackers and secondary didn't look great. Some of the same problems, except for some of them being reversed, being last year we couldn't stop the run. This year, or this game at least, looked like the secondary can't stop the air attack whatsoever, which was very concerning. Through 3 games, UCF's run D has actually looked really good. Now, is that a product of just teams only passing? And like TCU had significantly more pass attempts than rush attempts in the game. Let's be honest. They weren't even trying to run. But in fairness, the ones they did try, they couldn't get anything going on the ground. They had 3.2 yards a carry. They had no big plays on the ground. That was pretty significant that we were able to. I think they were passing because they knew they could pass. But think about it. They had a lead for most of the game where running would have been the smart play to burn more clock, but they didn't do it partly because the pass game was working, but also the run game, we were shutting it down. So I give a lot of credit. I think the run D has significantly improved this year under Roof so far. The passing defense is definitely a concern. The other aforementioned warts I talked about, I did not see a lot of pass rush. Now, some of that was a product of TCU getting rid of the ball super quickly. You noticed that there was a lot of dink and dunk plays. Hoover actually only averaged 7.7 yards per pass. So it wasn't like a lot of these were massive chunk plays, but they were getting a lot of crossing routes and things like that where they're picking up an easy, 8, 9, 10 yards on a lot of plays. So we still have only had one sack through 3 weeks, and we had no sacks in this game. We applied very little pressure. We had one tackle for loss in the game, which wasn't good. Tackle for loss and sacks were a problem last year. We ranked in the 70s. And they haven't been good through 3 weeks so far. So I am not seeing a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. I'm not seeing a lot of pass rush at all, even against two weaker opponents in the first 2 weeks. However, I think some of that is a product of these quarterbacks are getting the ball out super fast and not giving us enough time, to apply that pass rush. Another thing is I still see the secondary playing really far off the receivers. They're playing like, 8, 9, 10 yards off the receiver, which is allowing for these, dink and dunk plays that still get 8, 9, 10. Where yes, we're limiting the massive chunk plays, but there still was a few in this game, especially that receiver Beck that had 200 yards. He had quite a few big catches in the game, but I'm still seeing that as an issue. So those two things I think are big issues: the lack of pass rush and the secondary playing off their receiver by a pretty wide margin there. But on the plus side, the run D looks better, and I think overall the defense played a lot better in the second half. I mean, they only gave up 13 points and only three, in the fourth quarter, as well as stopped 5 third down conversions in the second half after giving up, whatever it was, 8 in a row to start the game. So that was a positive sign. So those are some of the warts I still see defensively. Special teams, there looks to be again some words. Boomer is kicking the ball too low. That first field goal that he missed was a product of not really a block. That was the fact that he just kicked it way too low, didn't even get close to the field goal. I think it was a 40-something yard try. And then on the blocked extra attempts, it was also a product of, it took too long to get the ball to him, to the long snapper, and also, kicking it low where it was easier for their special teams to block it. So I still see that as a problem. Boomer technically didn't miss any of those, maybe outside of the first one. They're blocked. So I did see Paul Rubel did just let on the 2 blocked extra points, like just the guy went like right past him, no problem, with like no attempt to even stop him. So I'm not going to put that all on Boomer, but that is an issue. Special teams looks like it, not as good as it looked in the first 2 weeks where it looked pretty flawless. Offensively, though, KJ looked a lot better, looked a lot more comfortable in this game. 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Obviously, still not throwing the ball a ton. I think he had, what do you have? He had only had 22 attempts and completed 13, but 3 touchdowns. He did exactly what we needed him to do. He absolutely converted on some key first downs. He was able to use his legs as well to get some first downs. And those 3 touchdowns, all of them were super clutch. That first one to RJ Harvey, we needed it to get back, to get our first points of the game. And then the 2 touchdowns to Kobe in the second half were absolutely huge. He looked a lot more poised and calm in the pocket, and did things with his legs. So I think we know what he can do. You could tell that he was built for these moments. He's calm back there. You could tell he's a veteran. So he did what he needed. And we relied on our star trio. And I think that's okay. RJ, Kobe, and KJ, they did their thing. That's why you have players like this. I think it also showed our lack of depth at wide receiver. I think we barely have a wide receiver too. Townsend is not breaking out like we thought he would. I mean, he's essentially just used on like jet sweeps, is what it feels like. All he's used on. He's not even really being used in the slot. It feels like our running backs are being used more in the slot than he is. So I think Kobe is really all we have there, which is fine if he stays healthy. And we are a run first team. So that the scheme kind of calls for maybe you don't need as many receivers, or they're not even being used. So we can't even necessarily call them a bust because they're not being played, they're not being used, they're not being used in the playbook. But I still think we have not developed receivers as of late, and that's continuing this season. Um, but overall, I'm really, really pleased with the fact that we were able to overcome adversity. This would not have been a win last year. We clearly have grown and matured as a team, as a program, and got some leaders in here that have really helped. They kept us calm. We were down 21. We were able to come back. We were able to weather the storm. We were able to play better defense in the second half. The offense was hitting on all cylinders in the second half and played, I think, pretty well throughout most of the game. So overall, I think, getting this road win was absolutely huge for our confidence. Overcoming a 21-point deficit was huge for our confidence. And, I think we vanquished a lot of demons in this game. Now, I think this is a kind of a game that can carry over into the ensuing weeks. So now we have a bye week. We go in with momentum, with positivity. Spirits are high. And, we take a week to get healthy. Maybe John Walker, I don't know if he's supposed to come back, but maybe he'll get healthier. We have some nicks and bruises. Some of these guys can, definitely get healthier in the bye week. And then we got Colorado at home, and we play really lights out at home. So we have a really good shot here to start out 4-0. So I'm pleased with what this win means for UCF going forward. Go Knights, charge on.